Welcome back to the show, everyone. Craig and Jonah here today. So Jonah sent me a video entitled "Why Men Need Sex," and I was like, I don't need to see any more.
Yeah, I mean, my YouTube
I endorsed this video
because of this podcast. My YouTube feed involves a lot of videos about masturbation and sex, as well as the other types of things that I consume, like pro wrestling and fishing and hunting. So,
well,
that pretty much
that's
sums
a
it up.
nice blend. That kind of covers all the basic,
Packers.
basic male needs there.
You got to get the Packers in there. So, anyways, I came across this video and I watched it, and I felt like she was pretty spot on. So then I went and checked out her YouTube page and I subscribed. It's called the Happy Wife School. And in the about section, she says that I'm a former unhappy wife who emasculated my husband until I had an awakening that I was the problem in my marriage. Now I teach other women the journey of finding happiness within so they can evolve as women in the role of being a happy wife. And then she goes on to talk about how she works with unfulfilled women to heal the relationship. And she says that she also works with good men who want to learn to navigate their wives' emasculating behaviors and responsible way to reclaim their strength and sense of self. So she has weekly videos. The videos that I have watched are great. So I think
She's got a. We're not gonna show you the video. We'll play the audio, but and I'll link to it. But behind her camera, she's got a plaque that says, "You women, you are the source of your unhappiness." See, this is the thing.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
The women can get away with saying this stuff, and I, of course, would never think this stuff. But even if I did, I couldn't get away with saying it.
Ooh. Boy, there'd be a lot of hate mail.
I think that's how these people, they feed on that.
But you know what's interesting is that, so I take a lot of people fishing, and when you take people fishing, they talk about a lot of different things. And for men, it's pretty universal.
You got to shove a microphone in front of them when you're out there.
They talk about their relationships with women, and especially if they're married. And what women talk about are generally their problems with other women. Like, it's interesting. I don't know. It's just interesting. Like, I don't know why it's like that, but that's all anecdotal. But it's interesting to think about. It's something that I think about a lot, because why that is.
You're like the bartender, but without the beer.
That's very true. There's always issues with, like, snotty friends or mother-in-laws or their own moms or whatever, like it's interesting. It's not, and sometimes their husband is lazy or whatever and leaves his socks everywhere or whatever. Like, those are common comments too. But
yeah, you guys are really spoiling it for the rest of us, so cut it out.
But it is an interesting sign. But
all right, so
I have no further comment.
All right, so I watched this yesterday, so we'll play through it, and as we usually do, we'll start and stop as necessary to comment.
Sex is how your husband feels loved and respected. Your husband is not a woman. He is a man, and sex is incredibly important to a man, and it's where we miss each other and just go totally different ways as husband and wives. That if you ask him, a good man, what are the top 3 things that are most important to him in a marriage and in a relationship? Sex is going to be number 1, if not number 1, 2, or 3.
That's just absolutely
true. If you
true.
ask a woman,
mine is 1, 2, and 3.
All right.
Everything else is the distant fourth.
It's true just how important it is, because you can deal with a lot of other stuff if you have regular intimacy in your life.
Yep.
You could ask a woman, what are your top 10 most important things to you in a marriage or a relationship? Sex might not even make the list. It might be like number 8, 9, or 10, maybe.
Terrifying to think about.
So we have to
it's amazing how there's that level of disconnect between the two genders.
Well, it makes you wonder how we managed to survive and grow as a population. But
yeah, and I mean, the reason.
Yeah,
I mean,
but this mismatch stuff really,
it isn't because your wife is chasing you around the house.
Yeah. Eventually she just gives in.
Yeah.
But you know, again, it puts a spotlight on us Catholics and how we have, you know, these, in addition to just the dynamics of a relationship, you have the dynamics of faith and these very clear boundaries of you shall not pass here, individually and as a couple, that when these dynamics are at work, make you know, have very significant spiritual and moral implications for us men, that sometimes makes it hard to understand why the church says what she does about certain things. So anyway, continuing.
Understand it as women that sex is incredibly important to men, and we know that. That's why we use sex as a weapon, and we use sex to manipulate and control, and we all know how we do that and have.
We're fine being manipulated and controlled as long as it's, you know, regular.
That's true. And I would like to know, like when she talks about we all know how we do it, I don't know. You know, that's one thing, you know, like I may have been manipulated my whole life, you know, like, I mean, you know, like my adulthood, I don't know.
Well,
I have no idea.
I'm certainly easily steered in a certain direction based on this.
True.
Done that. And what happens is that we begin to treat our husbands like Neanderthals, and that there's something wrong with them, that sex is so important to them, and we want to change them and make them so wrong for just who they are as a man. But you have to understand, when you chose to get married and you made vows and you made a commitment to your husband, you took on the role and responsibility to have sex in your marriage.
That's it. It's pretty powerful. It's kind of a nice way of talking about the marital debt, but in a way that actually makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And enjoy it as a part of a healthy relationship. Women need to understand, and this was, well, let me finish that thought. Women need to understand that sex is not an option, and it is not something that is inconsequential. Sex is part of a healthy relationship and marriage. And
I would agree with that.
I've been,
like, as far as it creates a connection that's really important for the husband, at least, and I think the wife too. And it's just, it makes everything better.
It's an essential nutrient, I think, for health, like the marriage. It kind of reminds me of, you know, some past episodes where we've talked about some folks in the Catholic sphere that talk about, you know, you may have to have extended prolonged abstinence of a year or more, and that could be good and beautiful for your marriage. And if your marriage falters under the weight of that, that just means your marriage kind of sucked. And I tend to disagree.
Yeah, I think
I think you're starving your marriage, maybe rightly. I'm not saying, but I'm just pointing out the consequence, not questioning so much the rule, although
and I mean, the thing is that you can totally live with another person. Like, I lived with many roommates during college, but I really didn't give a rip about them, you know, as far as like they can do whatever they want. And that's kind of how it gets when you're in a relationship with your wife, even. And just the intimacy is just dead.
It's a one flesh union. I mean, I don't know.
Things can go south in a hurry.
Yeah.
And it's not really like when they say that your marriage is weak. Sure, but like everybody's marriage is,
well,
has weaknesses.
Humans are weak. We're not superheroes. Like,
yeah. There's a reason that most of the saints were single. Like, I don't know how many married saints there are, but there's a reason. I think that marriage is a difficult path to walk.
I would say under the best of circumstances, it's not easy.
Like, and you can really, you can become a holy person just being single, and you don't deal with the distractions of marriage, but just the stress and the difficulties that go along with it. And You know, I think you can overcome the solo acts too if you're not tempted by being, you know, around somebody of the, you know, that you're attracted to like that.
Yeah, I tip my hat to the saints that, flagellated themselves and wore hair shirts. At least they kind of got into the spirit of it a little bit. I think they earned their stripes maybe
Yeah.
a little more than the other ones, but
I don't know. I'm not into the self-flagellation.
you're married, so
Yeah, that's true. I don't need to be.
Reflecting on, because when my husband and I got engaged, I had already started withdrawing and putting a wall up around sex when in the beginning of our relationship and dating and leading up to us getting married. We had a very healthy, enjoyable sex life. And then I threw my walls up, and that's very, very common for us as women.
And I don't know why that happens or how that happens, but I think that experience isn't just hers.
I mean, I think for a lot of us Catholics, we start having babies right away, and that
disrupts things.
seems like it could play into that. I don't know her story.
Yeah, I don't know if she is, what religion she is. No idea.
And when they had kids, but it's amazing that, let's say, couples that, let's say, quote unquote, are not fettered by children right away, still go through this process. Like, what is that? Is that original sin, or is there some just biological evolutionary thing there
where you're intimate with somebody for a while and then it kind of slows down? And
yeah, is that just so you don't end up with 20 kids? I don't know.
I don't know. You're only at 9.
There
And it was a really, really big challenge in even just my early 30s, which is so sad to me now. And I had to learn an important part of my healing in my marriage, and through this decade of my 30s. In the beginning was overcoming the walls I had built around sex in my marriage, and recognizing that I couldn't have sex with my husband as a duty or a chore or an obligation.
Nobody wants that either.
And we have sex from
yeah.
Nobody wants anything like that. Like, and that's why guys turn to porn, I think, to some degrees, because the women in porn tend to look interested and satisfied and that sort of thing.
So I've heard.
Yeah. It's been a while. Like I said, in that one, I talk about Paris Hilton videos. It's been a while for me, but
I think that's right. I think men, I mean,
like, you crave that more than anything. Like, even in a way more so than the actual act itself. You want your wife to be pleased.
Yeah. Yeah. I think men want their wives to be pleased. I think
like it's extremely important.
Yeah. And so this will be some exclusive content that will yeah. So I have a preferred position. Oh,
I'm sorry, I just spit all over Craig.
wow.
I didn't see that coming.
So
Sorry.
oh my.
I couldn't hold back.
Oh, this will make a good TikTok reel anyway.
All right.
So I have this.
Here, I'll clean
Is
this
your mouth empty now?
I'll clean this
Okay.
up.
So so I have a preferred position, and I would say every half a dozen times or so, I'll ask for it, and she'll say yeah, and about 3 out of half a dozen I'll ask for it, and she'll say no. She's got her preferred position. I have mine.
All right.
Where are we going with this? Well, I just it would be nice to not have to ask for my preferred position, because she knows what it is.
Okay.
And she always enjoys it, but I don't know, it is like, it's hard to like I'm gonna mess up this saying, what the gift horse in the mouth. I'm not even sure I'm using the right one, but I mean, I don't want to complain about it, because our intimate life, when it happens, when NFP isn't screwing with it, is pretty good.
It's funny, because Jack Black, the comedian, he was in a band and he sang a song about that. Actually, it's called Hard Effing. But he says, like, there's a line in there. He says, whatever position you want to do, I'll do it. He's like, And then she responds, he's like, that's cool. It's not my fave, but I'll do it for you.
Mhm.
So it's a common thing.
Yeah, it'd be nice once in a while, for her to say, hey, let's do it this way. It's like, I don't know. I don't like having to ask for it.
All right. Well,
So anyway, back to regular.
minor complaint.
Yeah. So we're back
In the
on.
larger scheme.
Yeah. So those that are not in the Own and Put Club just missed a good exchange there. So you're gonna want to like subscribe. So continuing on.
From a place of obligation or as a chore, we feel used, we feel resentful if we're doing what we're supposed to do.
And I
It's
can
a
see how that
actually
happens.
a wonderful example of being nice.
Like if they feel like they're supposed to do it, I can see how resentment would build.
Yeah, I don't know how the Babylon Bee.
Yep.
You familiar with that? I wonder if I can find it. Let me see if I can find it. It was so good.
What was it about?
It was on Instagram, and I don't know if I could share Instagram, like I could share TikTok with you, but I don't know.
You can share Instagram.
Okay. Without it's I thought there was one about the marital debt, but it's similar. Babylon Bee. Experts reminding your wife the Bible says she should submit leads to the happiest marriages.
Oh gosh.
But I think it's the same thing. Like exercising the marital debt is a sure way to have a very happy wife.
The thing is that it isn't. Like that is like, when the resentment builds because they feel like it's a chore. I get that too. I can see how that would happen.
Yeah. So, and I don't know. Now I think the problem is that you can't like force yourself to enjoy something you don't enjoy. I mean, she's got ways around that, but I mean,
yeah, I should talk about it and then I have a comment.
Is doing sex to check the box and say done. Maybe I bought myself a week or two and then shutting down. That's not okay in a marriage. That's a cruel way.
But I bet that's so common. I bet that's really common.
Real common, I bet.
Man in which this is very important to him. So ladies, let me make it very, very clear. You cannot have a healthy marriage. You cannot have a healthy relationship if you are not having sex with your husband, or you are shut down to sex and doing it as an obligation and a chore. It's not okay. And you can't have a healthy relationship or a healthy marriage.
And that's true. You may, it's not that you can't have a relationship, but it won't be as good as what
you could survive. You could
Yep.
survive, so to speak. But if you want to thrive and have a happy relationship,
it just requires intimacy. It's just like watering a plant.
And I think I think what she's saying is it takes some work, because I'd say a lot of women, a lot of wives that grew up in sort of a conservative Christian background just really aren't armed with the tools to know. It's not their fault necessarily, but it does take a little. It takes some education. It takes some practice. It takes some mindset work to get you to the point where you're not, because maybe it's not all that. It's not in the top 3 list, priorities for you, and it may not be super enjoyable for you.
So that's where I was going to comment on how within my marriage, how we got married and everything was great. And then it just became less frequent after we had kids. And she just really had no idea that it was important to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then once we made it a priority, it got better for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It just, and I don't know how that transition happened, but, it seems to be important to her too now,
Yeah, that's the key. If you could figure out for it to be a priority for her, it's always gonna be a priority for us.
But she said too that she could see just how much it improved, like just my
my wife's made similar
level
comments.
of affection, maybe, or mental health. I don't know, but it makes a difference in your life.
Yeah, my wife said I'm much better with the kids now. Well, that was before I was in PMAS. So we have a different report card now.
The struggle is real.
Yeah.
That place. We all know sex is part of a healthy relationship. And here is something that is very important, ladies. We all enjoy sex. If you remember when you met your husband, or before you met your husband and you were dating and having different relationships with men, we couldn't wait. We couldn't wait to get together and meet up for a date and know where that was going to lead.
It's funny how it changes.
And we can.
Yeah, for us, doesn't. I still enjoy watching my wife get out of the shower and stuff.
Yep. Boy, that's true.
I'm still a boy when it comes to that.
Oh, that is true, man. You know, like that never changes for a guy.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not, maybe some guys, especially if they have issues with pornography or whatever, you know, they can change how you see things. But like for me,
yeah,
I just look at my wife and think about how beautiful she is sometimes,
mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
Reflect back to the beginning of our relationship, before we got engaged, before we got married, and we were in the newness. We loved and enjoy having sex. We begin to put our walls up, and I'm not going to get too much into that, but I do want you all to know, trigger warning. We're going to be talking, or I'm going to be talking a lot more about our relationship with sex as women and the importance of it in a marriage, and how to overcome the walls that we have built around it, and how to overcome the withholding of sex that we have put into place in our marriage. And I'm also going to be talking about how everything we've been taught by the experts about sex is wrong. That we are not ovens that need to be warmed up first. That's another video for another time.
She's saying that's not true.
She's saying that's not true.
Huh.
And I would say, not that I'm some guru, but like there's just sometimes, like I think in other podcasts you listen to, they talk about how you need at least 30 minutes. And I don't know, I think that you can figure things out faster. It's kind of like, you know, eventually, Jeff Foxworthy has a skit about this where he talks about the one thing that's great about being married is that he knows how to please his wife. He knows it's just like a locker combination where, you know, 29 to the right, 33 to the left. And then, you know, I think that over time, you know, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with longer foreplay or anything like that, but just when people say that you have to be intimate for at least 30 minutes, I think that's a funny rule.
Yeah, I don't think.
I'm not opposed to it at all, though. I mean, it's just a timing thing. Like if you have kids in the house, like you're constantly under a clock.
My wife would be like, "Let's go, let's
wrap it up."
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I think, you know, maybe this is more true for people that are like in new sexual relationships all the time, where you can, you know, like you said, I kind of know my wife's combination.
Mhm.
I more or less know what works and doesn't work, and we just kind of have a system.
Mhm.
And when it's go time, you know, most of the time it works. Sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time it does. We
aim for lack of effort.
Yeah. It, you know, I will say that the longer it's been, I think the easier it is for her
Mhm.
to get moving. I don't know. That's the only thing is abstinence. Certainly, I don't know. My wife benefits from that. Is
Don't let Christopher West hear that.
Yeah,
because they'll use biology against you.
But you know, so talking about Christopher West, because I want to make this point too. You know, you know, this whole idea, and I mean, she kind of talked about how men need sex to. This is how we feel love. This is how we connect with our spouses. I think that's very much true when you're in that bliss, kind of immediate post bliss period, or in that sweet spot of, let's say, 3 to 5 days. I'm telling you, you get out to day 10, 12, and it's pure biology. It's pure, like, I need to get, not that you don't enjoy the intimacy with your spouse, but if I always think it's funny because he likes to say when, you know, when you've been abstinent for a while, then you go back and you got the honeymoon phase, that there's this great desire for your wife. There's a great desire for sexual release, first of all.
And then how do you separate that from lust then? As he talks about, like there's
I think
like how we can support that, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm much more separated from the biological urge and more in tune with just the desire, the connection with my wife. if it's sort of close in time to the last time, but the further out you get, I think the more and more it is sort of an animal instinct, and I don't like that. I
Yeah.
mean, it can sort of make, I don't know, make the pleasure maybe a little better just because you got all this kind of pent up emotion or
Yeah.
hormones, but the connection experience I think is less. I think it's diminished over time, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I think,
Yeah.
and this could get to where you're saying about, when it becomes more frequent, our spouses tend to appreciate it more, because I don't think they feel used as much. I think they feel, that you desire them for them and not to satisfy some biological need.
It's true. I don't know. When you get to the point where they feel like you're chasing them around the house, like that's just not a good point.
Yeah. So,
But it's really, really important. We have been fed so many lies and so many myths and so much misinformation about sex as women. And I'm excited to share my journey, because it's been a huge journey and wonderful journey in my marriage. One of the things I'm most proud of and my husband is most appreciative of.
Oh, I'm sure.
that I have.
yeah.
That's the understatement of the year. That lucky son of a.
Jesus. How do we fight?
He crawled out of the depths of some dark place, or she did, and he is the benefactor of that.
I'd like to get him on the show.
Yeah, I'm sure that he lived through a lot, based on, if she's willing to admit that, it was pretty dark.
Healed and overcome in myself, and I'm excited to be sharing that. So we're going to be talking more about that on the channel. But that's the number 2 thing. Your husband really wish you knew that sex is how he feels loved and respected, and that it's not an option in marriage, that when we made those vows, that's the commitment we made. It's part of a healthy.
And I think the flip side of that is, if a husband is turned down for, not for like NFP reasons, like, but just as a matter of choice.
Habitually.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
as a matter of choice. Like, you could do it if you
Mhm.
wanted, but it's not. I think you feel rejected and disrespected.
It's actually one of the worst feelings.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
those are actually, wow. I mean, thinking about that, that's just such a painful experience.
Mhm.
And it's far more painful than probably what they realize,
Yeah. Well, and for us at least, when you're abstaining because of NFP, like I am right now, it's, of course, it's not the same thing, but my wife is sort of aware of what's going on and has glimpses of sympathy for me, I guess.
Mhm.
You feel like you're kind of in the same boat, so to speak, but when I don't know, it makes it a little easier when you're kind of forced into this position, as opposed to by choice, because your spouse just is rejecting your.
That's a situation of extreme loneliness.
Yeah.
Then
If you're
nothing's going to go right,
if
like
you're
in the marriage.
if you're in PMAS only because your spouse is just not into doing it more often, that's a really, really dark place.
Mhm.
That really messed with my mind a long time.
Yeah. I mean, that is difficult.
So,
relationship, and when, as women, we can reconnect with the fact that we enjoy sex too, then it's something we do for ourselves and enjoy for ourselves.
And that's
That
what I was getting at,
we
is
get the
that
benefit.
somehow that switch can be flipped.
mhm.
Despite all of the situations in life and just how busy you are, like that can happen again. That's something that surprised me.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're 20 years, we're not spring chickens, but I would say we're in the best phase of our lives ever in terms of relationship.
Mhm. Yeah,
Intimately,
same with us too.
yeah.
And so I would say, if you are in a sexless marriage, just talk to your wife, and you just have to have uncomfortable conversations and just
Yeah.
get it over with, because it won't go away.
Yeah.
If you just delay the conversation, you're just delaying, really improving your marriage.
Yeah. How long do you want to endure that misery?
Before you just live a miserable life,
Just
or you
rip
get
the Band-Aid
divorced
off.
or whatever. I mean,
Yeah. I wish I would have done it sooner, but
totally.
Benefit of it, and our husbands get the benefit of it. But a key piece is, we really do have to remember that we enjoy it, and not have sex for our husbands as something to check off the list just because it's important to them. they can feel that. We have to learn to be there and be engaged and enjoy it for ourselves, which is all our husbands want. And then we don't have the resentment or feeling used or feeling that that's all we're good for, or that's what we're supposed to do. We can be in it for ourselves, and our husbands get the benefit, and you can have a healthy sex life in your marriage, which is a key important piece to being a good wife and having a healthy marriage.
So this lady is 100 times more helpful to Catholic marriages than Christopher West.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, it would be awesome to talk to her.
Well, yeah, I don't know if she does podcasts, whatever. I saw she has a calendar, but I'll reach out to her. I'll see.
Because I mean, she's pretty spot on.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So
it's the kind of insight that we can't provide. You know, like it has to, for whatever reason, it has to come from a woman. I don't know.
yeah, it is. It's absolutely true. So that's why I hope, I like to see the viewership, you know, the more and more women we have watching, the better, because maybe you're the cause, you know, your source of your own unhappiness, but you are the key to your marriage's happiness.
Absolutely. Like the husband can only do so much.
Yep.
It's really the wife's happiness is the driver of everything. It does, because it doesn't matter how happy you are at all.
Yep.
Like when you get home and if mama's not happy, nobody's happy.
Yeah. But if you can be happy, it's just exponential how much just enjoyment your marriage can experience. So, well, okay. Well, other than getting assaulted by the contents of Jonah's mouth,
just spit on a little bit.
That was pretty good.
I couldn't believe it. I didn't see that coming.
So I'll leave part of it in, but some of that, some of what we talked about will probably make it on the in the exclusive content. So those that are listening, so here's kind of how things are going to work. I'm trying to make the podcast a little more accessible and promotable. So there's going to be kind of, the public version is going to have some of the stuff, more of the explicit stuff, and you know, the words and stuff we use will be taken out. There will be an email list, so you're going to have to go up and email me and ask for and that's going to be called the Unfiltered Catholic Man. So that's kind of the we'll email links out when the shows come out. So if you like the full content, mostly full content, that's going to be the Unfiltered Catholic Man, but you're going to have to get on my email list, and I'll email you links to those episodes. It'll be everything that you see in the public episodes plus some of the stuff, and the only stuff that won't be in there is, I would say, personal stuff, where we talk about kind of, you know, just very personal stuff in our own intimate relationships. That's going to be, you got to be in the Own and fan club to get that stuff. The reason why I do that is this. You know, there are people that would benefit from that. There are people that don't want to see that, and there are people that will be turned away from the show to just kind of have that freely available. And it's just easier for me to recommend this show. I was telling you the other day, I said it's really annoying to have a podcast this great that I can't tell anyone about. But that's kind of changing. Maybe on the next episode I'll talk about something that happened work-wise, and I was like, oh man, this podcast is so perfect for this, but I can't tell anyone about it yet.
Yeah.
So we're kind of transitioning over to tiered access for that reason. So just stay tuned for that. So I know we have some pretty loyal listeners that enjoy the fun stuff that we do, and so that's why we're doing it, to make it easier for new people to find the show and whatever. And you know, and I think it'll be easier to get some of these guests on when they don't have to worry about being associated with some of our crackpot comments and stuff.
And you're not going to do anything with their email addresses or anything, you know, like you just.
It's just purely for, you know, and it may be that, you know, if we got something coming up, or we want to do, maybe we want to do a live one sometime, people can call in. That's how you'll find out.
Oh, that'd be great.
Is be on the email list. So it'll just be purely for letting you know about content and giving you access to stuff that isn't going to necessarily be publicly available here soon. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, well, thank you, Jonah. Thanks for sending that video over, and maybe we'll see if we can, everybody go subscribe to her and
Yep.
encourage her to come on the show. So anyway, well, thank you, Jonah.
You
and
bet.
And until next time, everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one.